I was born in the late 80s to two parents who struggled with mental illness and drug addiction. Either one of those things, dealing with those as well as being a parent, your child is going to experience some sort of neglect. It's just going to happen. And with both of those things, it's sure to happen. And, to varying degrees, depending on how well everyone in the situation copes. So with that being said, a lot of my childhood, I was very independent, in some ways parentified. And so I would get myself up from a very young age to get myself ready for school, walk to school on my own and all that. And so one day, I was in 5th grade, and I woke up and I was getting ready for school. And so a lot of times what would happen is I would just go ahead and get ready, and then I would tell my mom, hey, I'm going to school. So I was getting ready, and I was looking for my mom, and I found her on her bedroom floor, foaming at the mouth. She had attempted suicide. She had attempted to overdose on some pills that she had. And something like that, as I'm talking about it, even though it was 20 something years ago, I still feel those feelings, not as strongly, but I still can see it in my mind. You don't forget it. It affects you forever. And at some point I thought that I had no control over how it affected me. I thought that how I reacted was just how I reacted because of the things that I've been through, the things that I experienced as a child. But at some point, through various life experiences, I realized that was not the case. And I realized that even though maybe I had a tough childhood, my future is still in my own hands. Like, I still have the ability to choose whether or not I live my best life, whether or not I'm successful, regardless of what I may have been born into, or what things happen outside of my control as a child. Now, figuring those things out, I want to help you, because if you clicked on this, you probably have had childhood trauma yourself. I just want to share with you 5 things that helped me to get through that, and it still helps me, because I don't know if you ever fully get through things, but at least you can live. You can increase your quality of life, and that was my goal, and that's still my goal. And I just want to share with you some things that helped me. So the first one is to acknowledge your trauma. A lot of times, we say, that happened to everybody, or it wasn't that bad, or that wasn't trauma, it was just life, or my mom or my dad, they did the best they could. One thing that parents like to throw around is no one gave me a book, and stuff like that. And that may all be true. But at the same time, what can also be true is that these experiences can be traumatic for you as a child, especially as a child, because, you're developing. Your brain is developing. Your worldview, your perspective of life is developing. And so all of those things are very impressionable and fragile as a child. So the first thing is just to acknowledge that you experience some trauma. That doesn't make you. Sometimes we feel like, that makes us a victim. We're acting victim-y, and I still deal with those feelings. That's not the case. It doesn't have to be that. But in order to get through something, you do have to acknowledge that it happened, and you have to call a thing a thing. And from Auntie Yama Van Zandt, but you have to realize that this is a real thing that happened to you, or things, because some of us go through complex trauma, which is a situation that's ongoing, but traumatic. So real things happen to you, and they had real effects on you as a child and into your adulthood. So that's the first thing, to acknowledge it. You can't heal from it until you actually acknowledge it. The second thing I would say is to seek professional support. Now, there are different ways of doing this. Some of us may not be able to afford it, and that's okay. Because another way of doing it, just like you're watching this video, there are mental health professionals all over YouTube who share tons of things that help me on a regular basis to work through things that I'm experiencing and to explain things that I have experienced and just help me improve and achieve my goals and just progress as a person. Obviously, therapy is not for everybody. I hear people say. I tend to differ. My opinion tends to differ from that one. But even if you feel like it's not for you, you can learn through other ways by, reading books about the things that you might be struggling with. Maybe there's a professional researcher who has looked at a lot of different things, such as Brene Brown. She does a lot of social and psychological research about different emotions and different life experiences. And you can read books like that can help you understand yourself and the things that you've gone through. But however you can, seek professional support. There's someone who knows a lot about the thing that you've gone through that can answer a lot of questions for you, whether that's face-to-face with, in a therapy setting, or through books or through articles or through videos. Whatever it is, whatever works for you, find your thing. The third thing I would say is to focus on personal growth. So a lot of times we might think that, I've learned this and I'll never have to deal with this again. Sometimes that might be the case, and sometimes it's not. And so what I've found in my own life is that it's better to focus on just growing through something, because it may sneak back up in a different way, at a different level of life, but you just focus on, when I put my focus on growing rather than winning or getting over something, that change in mindset, change in perspective has been what I needed in order to face this thing the next time head on. And also, the flip side of that is to the focus on your personal growth and not other people's. So sometimes we might think that, someone did something to us, someone wronged us, they need to grow, they need to change. And maybe they do, but we can't control that. You can't control anyone else. I can only work on my own personal growth. So I'm not even going to worry about that person. I'm not going to worry about if they're sorry, if they learned anything or anything. I have to focus on me and make sure that I grow through whatever this experience was. And sometimes that takes being selfish. A lot of times, every time that takes being selfish. And sometimes you might have to break away from those people or certain situations to focus on your own personal growth, and that's okay. The fourth thing, and this is something that came really, really hard to me, but building a support system. And I say it came hard for me because I was really shy. That was one of the sort of outputs of my childhood trauma, keeping in a lot of secrets and not wanting people to get close to me and know what I was experiencing at home and stuff like that. And so it was hard for me to let people in, to have friends. To this day, I don't have a lot of friends, especially not close friends, but I have built a support system. And that support system, I know, have my best interests at heart. And that's really, really important. You're going to need that. If you're going up against trauma that you've experienced, I don't care if you're 50 and the trauma happened when you were 2, or ongoing from 2 to 20, whatever. If you haven't healed from it already, if you haven't confronted it, it's still there and it's still affecting you. And if you're ready, when I got ready to begin to heal, that support system really made the difference. And the last one, and probably one of the most important ones, is to practice self-compassion. That's something that I still struggle with. I tend to have a lot of negative self-talk, and I tend to talk down to myself. I've gotten better with this, but I used to be really bad to where, I thought that something was wrong with me. So I didn't really have compassion for myself, because regular everyday things that people could do that didn't have trouble, if I fell into, I have these depressive episodes, and at times, if you've experienced depression, you know that it's hard to brush your teeth, it's hard to get out of the bed, it's hard to take a shower, it's hard to feed yourself, it's hard to clean your house, it's hard to do just the regular things. And so in times like that, it would be very hard for me to have any compassion, any grace for myself. But when I didn't, I only dug myself deeper, because I would talk to myself in such a way where, if someone else talked to me that way, I would feel bad. I would cause myself to go deeper and deeper into that depression. And, obviously that's not helpful at all. So while something might be easier for somebody else, it doesn't make you less of a person because maybe it's a little difficult for you. Just because someone else knows something, there's plenty of things that I didn't know until well into my adulthood that maybe someone else learned at 3. And sometimes that can make you feel like less of a person, or not as good as someone else. And sometimes experiencing a traumatic childhood could delay your development, your growth, to where maybe you don't start your career until later in life, or you don't finish school until later in life, and stuff like that. And a lot of times when we're not hitting those milestones at those ages where we think they should happen, we think that we're less than, that our value somehow has gone down. But that's not the case. That's not the case at all. And so just practicing self-compassion is one that I've really been working on. And a lot of things changed in my life once I did that. Because if I'm trying to achieve a goal and I'm telling myself, you're never going to be good at that. Like no one's ever going to trust you. No one's ever going to believe you. You're never going to work through that. How would I even expect myself to start to even work on that if that's how I'm talking to myself and that's what I believe? So that that self-compassion piece is huge. That's the final tip that I have for you today. Those are the things that have worked and continue to work for me as I work through healing from the things that I've been through, and as well as thriving in life rather than being in survival mode. And if you have any tips that have worked for you, please share them below so that those of us who have had traumatic childhoods can learn from each other, and let's help each other. Let's build upon our support system and help each other. So let us know what has worked for you, and thank you for listening.